topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Dallas-Fort Worth. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. You know, we have gotten so many emails from our listeners asking us to add a show on sleep disorders. And I got to tell you that it's very dear to my heart because I suffer. Well, I don't suffer anymore because I've got my BiPAP machine, but I suffer from sleep apnea, and I know this subject very well, but we had to find the right practice in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I am so glad, I am so blessed that we have Dr. Kent Smith. Good afternoon, Dr. Smith, your first show.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here, Stephen.
I am so glad that of all the practices there are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that we were able to get you, Dr. Smith.
Well, I feel very blessed to be here. I can tell you it's a subject that I can talk about all day long, every day. It's my favorite. But it's because there's so much concern out there with this disease, and many people don't know that they have it, like you said.
You know, Dr. Smith, tell people, because I have been trying to get Dr. Smith for years, and I remember when he had one office. He has grown his practice. Tell us about your practice, Dr. Smith.
Well, yeah, so we started in Irving, which is a suburb of Dallas, for those that don't know, and then I was asked to open another practice in Frisco, and then we outgrew that and opened a bigger practice in Frisco, and then it just kind of grew from there. A group of sleep physicians who needed to join our organization came on last year, which expanded our reach, and we've opened a new office in McKinney, and we're looking at expanding in 3 or 4 other places as well. So right now we treat about 4,000 patients a year, and wow, that number is increasing. So who knows what the future will hold?
Well, Dr. Smith, it's first of all, when I first started calling on you, no one knew anything about sleep apnea, stop snoring, and you were the first one. Now, there might be someone else out there, but I only know you as the first one who really attacked this problem, and it is a problem.
Yeah, it's something that I learned early in my career was so important, and it didn't make sense that so many people went undiagnosed. I mean, Dr. Young did a study about 40 years ago to figure out what percent of the population was undiagnosed, and it was 85% of the population. Only 15% of people that have sleep apnea are aware that they have it. So then he did another study 30 years later, same percentage, 85% still don't know they have it. So we haven't done a good job all these years of educating the public.
So we're starting to get text in already. This is from Frisco, Ann in Frisco. I was one of the people who've been writing you to add a show like this. I am so glad. My husband suffers from sleep apnea, but my question is for Dr. Smith, is there a difference between sleep apnea and sleep disorders, or are they the same?
Well, sleep disorders constitutes an entire bevy of different diseases like sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a sleep disorder, but a sleep disorder isn't necessarily sleep apnea, because a sleep disorder could include sleepwalking, sleep talking, narcolepsy, idiopathic hypersomnia. There's lots of diseases under the word sleep disorder. So I hope that answers the question. But that's sleep apnea is a smaller part. However, it's the most dangerous disease among the full list of sleep disorders.
This question from Plano, Texas. I can't believe first show we're already getting all these texts in. Dr. Smith, since you're an authority, how do I convince my husband he snores? I tell him all the time, and he denies it. I remember those days, Dr. Smith.
Yeah, you have to make sure he has good life insurance. And then you let him know that, hey, I mean, it's okay if you die, because with life insurance, I'll be taken care of. But if you have a stroke and I have to wheel you around everywhere, that's really bad. So please get this treated. And then, some people, it doesn't cure the problem by moving to another bedroom, but sometimes that's enough for a bed partner to actually do something about it. But men aren't really good about doing something for themselves health-wise. Women usually are the ones that somehow have to encourage them to go in and see a doctor. But, one thing that a lot of husbands say, or a lot of men think, and a lot of patients think, that if you go in to have a sleep study just to diagnose what's going on, you don't necessarily have to wear a CPAP machine. Now, that it's a very life-changing thing to do. You feel much better, obviously, wearing your BiPAP machine.
More rested.
When you don't. Right, more rested, yeah. But there are other options for patients who do have sleep apnea. So some people say they don't want to go have a study because they're going to have to wear one of those machines. That's not true.
Wow. I've got so many questions here for you, but we're getting so many texts in. I'm so glad you've finally brought this show on. You have needed this show on Ask the Experts. It is, from what I understand, it's very dangerous to have sleep apnea.
Yep, it is. Now, we think of the heart primarily, because if you think about this, when you're asleep and you're not breathing, your blood flow has to increase because the blood supplies oxygen to all of our important organs. So if you're not breathing in enough oxygen, your heart starts racing faster and faster. So it's working overtime during the night. And at some point, you develop hypertension, which is high blood pressure. You develop all kinds of other issues. Cardiovascular, the top 5 diseases that occur as a result of untreated sleep apnea are all related to the heart. But on top of that, you add diabetes, you add depression. It lowers the bar for depression. It's just much easier to get depressed. Daytime sleepiness, we get very concerned about this, because not only could this hurt you, but if you fall asleep at the wheel and kill a family of 4, then you're endangering the lives of innocent people by not getting this treated. Like you said, you feel much more refreshed and less sleepy, less fatigued. You wouldn't believe what it takes for you to be. It takes 4 seconds for somebody to fall asleep at the wheel and be upside down in a ditch. 4 seconds. So wow. It's an extremely dangerous disease, not only for yourself and your bed partner, but also for innocent people out there.
Here's Monty in Houston. I've been wondering when someone was going to do a show like this. Does your practice offer the sleep test first to decide if you have sleep apnea?
Yes, we insist on that. Anytime you have any health problem, has to have a diagnosis. You're not going to go into a doctor and say, hey, I think I have high blood pressure. Can you prescribe me some medicine? They're going to take your blood pressure first. So yes, we always prescribe a study, which is done in the comfort of your own home now. I mean, these sleep studies have come so far technologically.
Wow, that's wonderful.
They can be done in your home, and many of them now are even disposable. You do the study, you throw it away. We electronically get the data sent to us, and we know exactly what's going on with your sleep.
Dr. Smith, I can ask you this. Why do we sleep?
Well, yeah, if you ask 10 different sleep physicians, you'll probably get about 10 different answers there. We don't really know, but I think the most common answer you'll get these days, and the research changes all the time, is that there's something called the glymphatic system that was discovered a few years ago. And we've all heard of the lymph system, the lymphatic system that helps clean out debris and stuff that we don't need in our bodies. That's a simplistic way of answering that. But the glymphatic system they discovered is how the brain cleanses itself. Because the lymph system doesn't go to the brain. If we get good deep sleep, our brain does get cleansed. The astrocytes in the brain tissue shrink, so the fluid rushing through there can flush it out. If we don't get good deep sleep, the astrocytes stay swollen, it can't wash the brain, and that can lead to Alzheimer's. So we think one of the main reasons we sleep is to cleanse the brain to prevent further disease.
Dr. Smith, I'm going to bring up a sore subject, but it's so important that people go in to be tested. And I got to tell you, one of the things I noticed most of all is I was falling asleep during the day.
Yeah.
Now, it's okay if you're sitting down, but if you're driving a car, it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And it was all because, I wasn't getting what I would call good sleep. And then I went in and had the test done. Tell people the dangers of not doing something. If they're snoring, some people don't even know that they're having trouble breathing. Tell people the dangers of not trying to correct this.
Yeah, and snoring is the first sign. So no question that, you can have apnea even if you don't snore, which would be called silent apnea. And that's why, yes, it's important. Just like we get our blood pressure checked regularly, we have mammograms, we check our prostates out, we do a lot of testing. But if you haven't ever tested sleep, which is something that you do a third of your life, you're asleep. And if you've never checked it out to see how healthy or unhealthy it is, that's a big mistake. So I honestly would encourage everyone to have a sleep test of some kind just to see what's going on during that 7 or 8 hours that you're asleep. And I know that's a stretch for some people. A lot of people don't get their 7 or 8 hours.
Right.
But that's also dangerous. You can have unhealthy sleep, but you can also have too few hours of sleep. And that's something that I would really encourage, is to make sure you get that 7 to 8 hours. But you asked a question about the other dangers. We talked about sleepy driving, which is a huge problem. There are thousands and thousands of wrecks that happen every month because of sleepy driving. FedEx hired me as an expert witness a few years ago because one of their truck drivers, had fallen asleep, driven through a stop sign, and killed a father and 3 of his kids.
Wow.
And they were suing FedEx for $400 million. So it was eventually settled out of court, but these things happen all the time and people just aren't aware of it. They know that there's crashes. They know that there are people that run into telephone poles. I've had patients on their way to our office before they ever get diagnosed who have fallen asleep and crashed their car on the way to the office. It's a huge problem.
So what if a person is at work and they find themselves falling asleep? Does that mean that they could have sleep apnea?
Yep. It could be other things. I mean, sleep apnea is certainly one thing. They could just be very sleepy because they're only getting 4 hours of sleep. Maybe the night before they had insomnia and couldn't sleep very well. Insomnia is a huge problem as well. But naps are not a bad thing. It's hard to do at work. Naps are very healthy, but most people shouldn't do that at work. And that's why in our office, we have meetings all the time, and I always close every meeting with this phrase. We're going to go out there today. We're going to save lives. We're going to heal relationships, and we're going to extend careers. And extending careers has a lot to do with being awake at work, being functional, paying attention. People lose their jobs because of sleepiness. That's a fairly regular thing to occur.
Wow.
We hear these stories often.
What about, this is such an easy show for me to do. And I'm so glad that we can offer this to people out there. There's so many people out there that are suffering from sleep apnea that don't know that they actually have it. And I have heard that it also has something to do with if you have high blood pressure.
Well, high blood pressure can be a sign of having sleep apnea. So if you have high blood pressure and you snore, then there's a really good chance you have sleep apnea. Now, you can have hypertension, high blood pressure for other reasons. But yes, it is a sign, or it is a result, a side effect of having untreated sleep apnea. And we find patients, once they get treated, sometimes they can get off their blood pressure medication.
Wow, that's amazing. What does unhealthy sleep look like, Dr. Smith?
Different with everybody. Unhealthy sleep. And when you talk about the bed partner, many times that's the person who notices that there's a problem.
Yes.
And encourages them to do something about it. So they're the ones that might, quote, diagnose. Now, I will say bed partners are the worst diagnosticians. You can't trust them. Having said that, they can be good indicators and let you know that, hey, you stop breathing. I actually time you on my watch. You stop breathing for over a minute. And the bed partner says, well, no, I don't. There's no way I do that. They're in denial. It's common for patients to be in denial for any health problems, but certainly for this problem, because it means going to the doctor. And yeah, that's what's going to happen. But unhealthy sleep can also lead to that fatigue and sleepiness we talk about. It can lead to diabetes if you have some diabetic markers that your physician has told you about. It's interesting. Most physicians don't ask about sleep. They've got so many other problems to worry about. And when you go in to see your doctor, you're going in typically for a specific reason. I have an ulcer, doc. I have insomnia. You might say that. But very rarely do they ask you about how you sleep and what your bed partner might be saying, or do you wake up fatigued? They don't give you an Epworth sleepiness scale, which is our measure of sleepiness. If someone wants to look that up, you can find these online, Epworth sleepiness scale. Take that test, and that'll tell you if you have dangerous amount of sleepiness as a result of sleep apnea. Now, you can be sleepy for other reasons, but unhealthy sleep might be that you have what we call periodic limb movement disorder. And if your bed partner says, yeah, you're always kicking me during sleep, your arms are moving, your legs are moving, or if your bed covers are strewn all about, they're always on your side or always on their side, that could be a sign as well. That's normally a sign of untreated sleep apnea.
Do you think the CPAP machine's the best way, or do you have other ways that you can treat sleep apnea?
That's a great question. Yeah, CPAP is what we consider the gold standard. It's been around for many years. They've improved it a lot. It's gotten quieter. The masks have gotten better. Humidifiers are better. So it has improved. The problem with CPAP is only about 50% of people who try it are able to wear it consistently. The other 50% can't do it. I know you can't imagine that because you wear yours every single night.
I can't sleep without it.
Right. You wouldn't believe the number of people we see that say, if I have to wear that machine, I'd just rather die in bed. I'm good. which is incredible. But they just and they only think that there's that one option for them too. But there are other options. There's oral appliances. Oral appliances for mild and moderate cases are just as effective as CPAP machines are. Now, when you get into the more severe cases, and Stephen, I don't know what your apnea disease level was. I don't know if it was mild, moderate, or severe.
Severe.
Then the CPAP is the best for you if you can wear it, and you can. But a lot of our severe patients can't even wear it. So the compliance rate for CPAP is pretty low. Some studies show it's even worse than 50%. For oral appliances, something you wear in your mouth just to hold your jaw to keep it from collapsing back, that is more compliant, not as effective as CPAP in the more severe cases. So, and then there are surgeries, which we usually think of as a last resort.
I got to say, this is our 13th year with Ask the Experts. We start off with 1190 radio in Dallas. I wouldn't touch radio ever again. I got to tell you, this normally on our first 2 or 3 shows, we don't get very many texts at all. Your show, there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 9 people still waiting. The show, I told you, goes by very fast. Tell people how they can call your office to make an appointment.
Yeah, the number is it's scrolling on your screen there, 844-409-4657. And we have locations all around the Metroplex, so there's probably one convenient for you. And if you want to, that's the best way to make that call. You can go to the website, stswell.com, read all about what we do. You can see all of our providers. You can look at all the different options for treatments. So if you one that likes to do a lot of research, go to the website. If you just want to call to get some help and get a sleep study done, you can call that number.
Well, I told you these shows go by. I'm looking at everybody's notes. Dr. Smith will be back again with us next month. I promise you. Why is this show so short? 25 minutes seems like a long time, but anyway, Dr. Smith, we are so blessed to have you. I'm so glad you'll be back with us every month because I know this is such an important topic. Thanks again. We'll see you again next month.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Dr. Ken Smith. Listen, I have known about Dr. Smith for a long time. He is one of the finest. He's a great dentist, but he's one of the finest doctors when it comes to sleep apnea, snoring. He's an innovator. He's amazing. We'll have him with us every month. And God, this could have easily been an hour show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.